Welcome back out to the greenhouse. I've got another solar panel hooked up. I got to rearrange that array. Once the snow melts, I'll get a nice little solar array set up for all of those solar panels out there. Sitting about 18 degrees outside today. Got a little breeze out there. Holding 60 degrees at the cold end of the greenhouse. Actually got water flowing from this. Surprised to see that the water's flowing. It's not a very sunny day. We really don't have any sun, but little efficient solar systems are working very well. This fan is the one I've got to take apart and rebuild, but for the most part these are putting a minimal amount of heat. They're picking up heat from the actual airspace in the greenhouse being 60 degrees as opposed to probably the 40-45 degree water we've got in there, and any kind of sunlight we're getting in is going to help and aid in the warming of the greenhouse here. We were just out here the other day and I wanted to check up on the system. It's physically getting warm down here. I can feel the heat. It's still sitting 60 degrees in the dead center of the greenhouse. Going from 18 degrees outside to coming into a 60 degree greenhouse, and down here it reflects it a little better, sitting about 84-85 degrees right above the stove basically. So all of that 80 degree air is just wafting through the whole top, and then it's slowly building that heat up down to the floor and heating up the double layer here, so we're insulating this heat a little bit better. All right, so I gotta shed my coat. It is definitely like summertime in here. This is my favorite thing about having this stove. It really puts some decent heat out. Even when we come out here and we don't have a fire going, it's 50 degrees most of the time. 45 is the lowest we've seen with our Jean Pain heating. Really just wanted to come out today and kind of add on to what I've been doing here. So I took an extra piece of my actual stove piping here and just bent it out and basically just capped it around there to basically touch and close that copper in a bit. So we're holding a lot more heat closer to that copper, because right when I started this up, it was definitely warming up the water, but I wanted to see what kind of heat I could really put to that copper, as it's really got a lot of stuff that it travels through and heats up before it actually makes it to our overflow tank. So I got my other solar panel hooked up and just kind of haphazardly wired all this together. I'm just going to connect this, so this pump should be running now. I can hear it. I can hear the water flowing. Sounds like a hum going around to that. Let's set up here and see what kind of temps we get coming through this. It's gonna take a minute for all that colder water to bilge out. So it's running about 60 degrees, 66. It's definitely warming up. 68. Oh yeah. That water is definitely going to end up burning my hand here soon. I can see steam rolling off of it. All right, it's getting hot now. Whew. All right, so I can't even touch that water anymore because it is so darn hot. So I saw 120 degrees. It's still rolling really hot water off of there, just steaming out. So there is no doubt in my mind that this is working and working well. I'm gonna try and get some more temps after about 5 minutes of this actually cranking some heat out. So it's still steaming a bit. It was blowing about 78, 77 degree water or so out of there. So that's after about 5 minutes of it constantly running. So if I'm able to blow 80 degree water from my Jean Pain heating, and if I'm able to push 70, 80 to 120 degree water through my actual wood heater, my wood water heater here, I should be able to heat this tank up in a matter of a couple hours, being able to recycle all of this on a decently sunny day. Now we don't have the best sun today. There really is no sun. It's just whatever's coming through the clouds. So we're able to have a little bit of activity with these systems. The Jean Pain's just kind of pulsing. This one's still blowing some decently warm water there. So that is a constant temp. We're going to be able to really heat this tank up. I don't know what the temp on that is because I just kicked that on. So this tank has warmed up to about 59, so 57. So I'm gonna say between 55 and 60 degrees is that tank. When I started that this morning, this entire tank of water was sitting about 44, 45 degrees, just like all of the other water in the entire greenhouse, because that was our overnight temperature in here with nothing running. This is quite interesting to me. I can feel a lot of heat radiating just from this end of the greenhouse alone, and it's just wafting down to the other side, and we're getting better and better temps. We can run down to the middle here. I'm sure these temps have came up by now. So coming down here, I'm sitting about 72 degrees, 70 degrees or so on that little middle thermometer. Let's see what we're holding on this end of the greenhouse here closest to the door. So we're sitting up here at about 65 degrees, 65, 66 degrees. So we've raised the temperature 5-6 degrees just on this end of the greenhouse alone after about 2 hours of burning and basically using a whole bunch of systems to radiate that heat and store that extra heat that's going to be wasted off our exhaust. This isn't the only thing I plan on doing. This is just what I wanted to show is our actual water heater and some ways that I added a little bit of extra heat transfer to that copper coil by kind of containing all of that. I mean, this stovepipe is very, very hot still, and it's radiating a lot of heat into the greenhouse, but I'm capturing a lot of that first layer of heat, the 500 degrees plus, and I'm transferring it to that fast moving water, which is hard to do. The faster you flow the water, the lower the temp transfer is going to be. I already slowed that rate of flow down quite a bit through this actual system by just downsizing to a 3/8 copper tube, as opposed to running a larger copper tube, which would have gave it a way faster flow, and I wouldn't be transferring as good a water. That is seriously just warm water. It's about 70, 75 degrees coming out of there. That is awesome. So I'm going to be able to warm this tank up very, very easily. This is awesome that I'll be able to store the energy, basically store it in a battery, and then once I fire up the stove before it starts to get dark out, I can just basically have that on tap, and I'll be able to flow all that hot water on demand, and I'll be able to get everything through the system, put some heat into this tank here, and then overflow that extra heat into the larger tank. And then we also have the thermal mass of all of these bricks. So we've got a lot of heat sources and a lot of ways to store that heat in a good releasing manner. I do apologize because I have not got my little fans up yet. I really want to get those set up so I can really blow some heat off of those back wall of brick. I've just been super busy getting all of this water moving and all of the copper coil wrapped up and kind of situated and getting all the fixtures, and I had to set up the solar panel so I had a power source and I wasn't just piggybacking off another system. This has its own solar panel, so as you can see, it is still just constantly running, and I can basically have this on as long as I have a fire burning. I will have that running, and if there's no fire, it's obviously not going to be running through this system. I won't want to be dripping cold water around my system if it's not hot, you know, so I'll basically just use this for when there's going to be a very, very cold night, start that fire up and build that thermal mass before it gets too dark. So I tried to keep this video a little shorter and a little more factual, just a whole bunch of info and trying to show everything, and that's kind of why I piece everything together how I do. I got all of this project done and I wanted to bring it to you guys and share how it's working. I basically burnt my hand off of the initial blast of heat coming out of there. It was like 120, 130 degrees. So I wouldn't be surprised if I can get hotter temperatures if I find a better way to insulate all of that copper. I may take another little piece of metal and shield it right there and make another little elbow basically. So I have a whole enclosed stack with copper running inside it, basically a double layer stack. But as far as it's going right now, I'm going to be able to warm this tank to about 70, 80 degrees till it gets dark, and then I should have at least 60, 70 degrees in this huge tank, as I'm going to be able to recycle most of the water in here. If anybody's got any questions on anything I had going on in here today, definitely drop it in the comments below. This is just getting better and better. The more little systems I add on to this, I think when I have my little fans up there, they're actually quite a bit bigger than the fan I've been using. So for comparison, I think this is going to push a lot of air and move a lot of hot air also. So those are rated for the heat, and I really want to test them out. That's just the next thing coming, so stay tuned to see how well all of this pans together. I really wanted to share all of this with everybody because this is all just me finding this out and figuring all this out with your guys' help nonetheless. So thank you to all my subscribers. We've got a lot accomplished already, and we've got a very, very good heat sink that we're working with now.